I am sure that some of you have been into a presentation, so you have already introduced yourself. But nevertheless, if we can start from the end, and Nikolas, if you can make the start and start for a very quick introduction, although you have introduced yourself anyhow, so we can come towards this way, and then we can.
Yeah.
Continue.
Hello. I'm introducing again myself. I'm Nikolas Manousis. I'm the general manager of Alpha Omega Z. I'm an electrical and computer engineer. I have been into ICT business of about 20 years and developing solutions for various sectors. And now I am the general manager of AOZ, which is we are very into cybersecurity in every sector of our economy. Thank you very much for having me here.
Nathalie?
Yeah, hello all. My name is Nathalie Kasparian. I'm the CFO of Xenatus Global, which is Microsoft Golden Partner. That's it. I'm going to keep it short.
All right.
My name's Gideon Lenkey. I'm really bad at introducing myself. I started my security career 25 plus years ago as a hacker for hire. These days, I mainly focus on governance, NIST initiatives, red teams, blue teams, bringing it all together for security management.
Okay, and I am Matthew Maheras, IT manager of Metrostar Management Corporation and also vice president of AMMITEC, the Association of Managers of Information Technology.
Excellent. Let me, with no further delays, go to the first question. And this question goes to Nikolas. And Nikolas, I'm sure that you have an excellent product that you have presented before. We are also having a close look at it and try to play with all the features and all the, let's say, technology that there's behind it. So I think question number one is very relevant to you. And he says that in a realistic environment, what do you think is the percentage of companies in the shipping industry that can take immediate and effective identity and react to a cyber incident 24/7? If you remember my presentation, I gave the example of if you get hacked on a Sunday 4 a.m.
Yeah.
What do you think is the percentage of companies that can actually have the mechanism to alert the right people, but not only that, to take effect? And how can the industry or how can your platform help companies to do that?
Yeah, first of all, you understand that this depends on the size of the company, of the IT people that they have, the investment they have, and all that. But in order to cope, most companies that do not have the means in order to have their own security team 24/7, which I think it's a little bit difficult because, as I said before, there is a lack of personnel in this industry. So the solution would be to, first of all, to have a tool like the one that I showed you before, which is very easy, and in one only screen, you can have the whole, from the identification to forensics to response, you can have all the kill chain. And secondly, what most companies do at this time is to have, they can keep, for example, 9 to 5 into their own personnel, and then they outsource the SOC, the Security Operations Center, to special, and depending on what time and which part of the world they are, in order to have a 24/7 protection.
Yes.
They share, yeah, they have a mixed module. So, as a percentage, I don't think that in the maritime they have already been in that. There's not a high percentage that can offer 24/7, but there is an easy solution for that, I think.
Right.
May I also offer my input?
I was sure that you wanted to.
Yeah, of course. Let me give you the feedback from a real attack, the one of the two, out of the two that you mentioned, in Athens a couple of years ago. And we say in Athens we understood it.
I didn't mention a name, but...
No, we don't mention names. However, for the most of the Greek owning and managing companies, out of the 200 companies affected, and we have some unofficial, let's say, internal information through AMMITEC, you know, colleague to colleague. It was almost 200 companies affected in general. 50 of them incurred some damage, like that data taken or email not working on vessels and stuff like that, more or less. Less than 10 of them had serious problems, like operations going down. Depending on the stage at which they realized the problem, that was the depth of the issue. So out of 200, 10 had very serious issues. There were only 2 companies that responded correctly. One of those was my company, and both employed either or both AI solutions and SOC, and it's Security Operations Center. In one case, it was I received a robocall from San Francisco. It was the Halloween night. It was Saturday to Sunday, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I received a robocall telling me, check your systems, we have blocked an ongoing attack when it discovered encryption activity. When it discovered the AI system, when it discovered encryption activity, blocked everything. Similar was the other company I know with another solution. So it goes back to investing, because when I asked them to invest, you know, it's not cheap to have such a thing. It seems like, you know, something a luxury. What does this thing do? It just checks the logs and, okay, when everything is at peace. So the percentage that actually responded, it's very, very small. It's 0.5%. Out of 200 companies affected, only 2 affected in real time correctly, and everything went well.
Right.
Most of them were in semi-manual mode. They realized and at a certain point stopped everything and started recovering through backup. That was the most common response.
So 0.5% was the companies reacting on time because of remote SOCs or because of internal mechanisms that could alert on time. That's not really a very encouraging percentage. And we're now on 2000, really at the end of the 2023, and looking backwards, as I mentioned to my presentation, it was a devastation. So I hope that somehow that number has grown a little bit, and they have invested in early warning systems. The 90 minutes threshold, or now or it's too late, is really very scary. So if you find out the day after, or in the morning, it's already too late, and that gives the results that we saw the last years to the shipping industry.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the hackers are evolving every day. So if you don't keep up investing and have all the help that you can have with AI, with external service and that.
I mean, and just to give the heads up, that was a very, very, let's say, sophisticated attack based on social engineering, mostly. It was mainly an internal attack based on VPN, trusted relationships, and stuff like that. It was not a classic attack that could be avoided through firewalls or anything simple.
Correct. And if you look at the role of the IT departments in the shipping companies, I'm a CISO, but also I'm an IT manager. And if you look at my description, my job description as an IT manager, cybersecurity is one part of it. So the IT managers have a very challenging description in order to take the company into the next generation of achievement, technology, make things work every day, and cybersecurity is a part of it. So the departments that try to do everything themselves without a SOC or without external support from, let's say, suppliers or partners, it will be impossible. I raise my hand and say, I don't know everything about cybersecurity, but myself and my suppliers conclusively do. So, Dr. Matthew, again, would like to ask you the next question that's relevant to what you have said. How can a small shipping company withstand or even recover from an organized cybercrime?
Okay. Well, we are a small shipping company, if you can tell. We're currently in the range of, you know, like a fleet of 10 vessels, more or less. So that's a small shipping company. It's not 150 or I don't know how many. Definitely, I would repeat that the investment would have to be, you know, in proportional to the size, let's say. However, compared to actually having more people on payroll, it's comparable. Because actually to do this job, as you say, you should have at least a team of 5, let's say, in any company, even if there are just 3 persons. Because you cannot actually have the CISO roles, the chief security officer,
Well,
and IT.
I have 15 in my team and still like go and press the management for more people every year.
Because, even for small companies, to have a decent team, it should be like 5 people. That's a big payroll. The only way to circumvent that is to get chunks out of it via technology, via outsourcing the service itself, okay? The reviews, the audit, all this stuff that needs to be done, somebody else has to do it with you for a payment. And then, of course, the culture of a small company, it's not easy to tackle. All these things, I said, always seem like a luxury. The smaller the company gets, the more luxurious these things seem. To have an exercise, it's, I think we'll talk about exercises more later, but it's very difficult in the culture of a small company because everybody knows each other, walk in the corridors. Everything seems easy. Well, if something happens, it's just of us. It's not. Okay?
Luxurious is a very polite word to describe it.
Exactly. Because that's also expensive stuff, and expensive not only in money, but also in time. No, I mean, the chartering manager or the technical manager do not have time to spend for exercises in cyber, or the crewing manager. We have other things to do. They have this claim from the insurance company about a heart attack or something like that. They're always into something. It always seems, let alone money, but their time of the other departments is also an important thing. Well, the only tool we have is presentations like that, the fear scenario.
Yes.
Just to raise awareness.
Correct. Cybersecurity, cyber insurance you mentioned is another nice subject to cover, but if I start talking about cybersecurity insurance, Adonis' picture will start appearing on the screen here, so I better not start talking about cyber insurance. Nikolas, do you want to say anything about the small companies trying to provide some resilience on the cybersecurity incidents?
Yeah, you just mentioned the word. I wanted to clarify that in this sector we have cybersecurity and cyber resilience, which are different stuff. Cybersecurity is about trying to cope with any attacks and cyber criminals and all that. And cyber resilience is when we understand that we definitely will have an attack. Okay, I don't think that if somebody says that you don't have an attack and that you won't be harmed, is living in a fantasy world. Okay, so cyber resilience is what you mentioned, the awareness, everything that has to do with the organization and how he can cope with his operation and all that in order, when he will have the attack, to have the minimum problem in his everyday functions and operations. So in order to conclude to what you have asked, I think what we mentioned before, the solution would be to have some 1, 2, 3 persons in your company, which will be guiding and having subcontractors in order to cope with the operations and to have the services outsourced. I don't think a small company can create a department which can address all the issues in this in the cybersecurity sector.
But I guess you can help with your platform in order to help those small companies to not to gain the experience, because that will take so much time, but at least you can actually keep them safe for a while until they are able to either grow or either get the experience.
And as I mentioned before, this platform has some advantages because you don't need to change everything in your established equipment. And you can easily, with only one, with this skill chain, with only one, you don't need to have a lot of monitors. With only one monitor, to find what happened, to see what happened, to react, to make then forensics and to create rules. So it's a very easy platform for, especially for security operation centers.
Right, right. Well, moving on to the next question, Nathalie. As a CISO, I have the responsibility of training our employees regularly. I also have the responsibility of traveling across the world and giving to our employees a security awareness. I hardly want to call it like a course because it's not a course. The reason why it's not a course is because it's transforming and changing so fast, and it is very applicable to their job. One of the things I was going to ask you is that, first of all, do you think that the industry and the companies take the effort and the time to educate the employees, or are they running a simple, let's say, cybersecurity generic questionnaire and platform just to tick a requirement within their ISO 27001, or just for clicking an exercise that has been done? Or do you think the industry pays for the time, or let's say it invests into educating the employees? And since, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you also have a little bit of financial background, is that correct? Do you think and do you believe that the financial people actually get an additional training where they see on board fake invoices, fake attempts? The financial people in my company actually hate me a little bit for actually giving them so much pressure on the everyday cases that we look at it. Do you think that the companies are investing time and money and securing or educating the employees on providing safe manner?
Okay, just to start from the beginning, I believe that, as it is well known, that businesses nowadays rely heavily on technology, which brings lots of values and benefits. With, however, saying that we should also be moving forward of the training, employee training, which to protect the business, employees, staff, and customers. Nowadays, lots of companies, lots of organizations are implementing cybersecurity into their work environment, DNA, by training their employees. And lots of companies, they are obliging their employees as well to take annual digital cyber training in order to be able to protect themselves against any attack that might happen. They will be having that awareness. And if I'm going to go back to the financial part of it, yes, it is true that there is a cost that each company has to there is a budget that you have to put, but once you realize the value of that budget and the problems that you might affect, that you can get affected, it's easier to put that budget into place and provide the training that the employees need. And I do believe that most companies, especially the medium to large companies, are already aware and they are doing this on a yearly basis. And small companies are realizing and starting to prepare some kind of budget into their yearly annual studies and move their employees in order to have that security training in the system, in their environment.
Excellent. I have to warn you a little bit about Gideon. Gideon has spent a lot of time in a law enforcement agency in the United States, consists of 3 words, will not say names. So you'll be very careful of what you ask Gideon on what you actually tell during the break. However, Gideon, I would like to ask you, you are providing some security assessments to companies. You also provide penetration testing, and also you have, because of, let's say, your previous job/hobby, invests in the observation of people and how they react and behave. Do you feel, or do you think during those assessments that your customers, socially or in the human psychology, are well educated in order to provide really some resistance on the modern terms which are not 100% IT anymore?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to depend on the maturity of the organization, right? So it's, you know, some people are well prepared, others aren't. It also changes very, very rapidly. So some of the training that, you know, we've observed being effective, like maybe the most effective training we see for awareness is that it's gamified. For instance, products like our service like Ninja, right? They make it into this fun thing, and people actually look forward to, you know, participating. And then they get very, you know, that's good. We also have good success with incentivizing reporting things like phishing. Right? So as you know, there's a bunch of different tools now. They're very, very good. People get used to those tools' protection. MFA, you know, but now MFA is easily subverted. It's trivial to get around MFA. People don't seem to know that. So the controls are very, very good at preventing attacks getting in. So what we have to do is we have to match the testing and the education to the, you know, the evolving threat landscape. So we'll intentionally relax the protective control, like we have these machine learning hooks into Office 365 that are really, really good. People's inboxes, all the spam's gone, they relax. We got MFA, what could happen? So we have to simulate what happens when those controls are subverted. So we relax them, get them in there, and the results were horrifying, because what we found was between the training, the overconfidence in the protective controls, it was like, you know, welcome back to, you know, to 2010. People were clicking on stuff that they absolutely shouldn't have. So then you have to evolve the program to make it more, you know, on level with, hey, you know, you really can't trust your MFA. You have to actually ask, why am I entering my credentials? Does this make any sense? And am I expecting this calendar invite? Am I expecting this document where I have to authenticate to Microsoft? Right? So yeah, it's a never-ending game.
I can't hold myself from asking you now the very quick question. Since you have a lot of US customers, do you see a different regional approach to cybersecurity comparing Europe with the United States?
No, I wouldn't say there's a different approach, but there is a different mindset. In the US, it's very commoditized. It's all very pragmatic. Hey, we know we need to do this. What's the most effective way? What's the most cost-effective way? Efficiency. I still find in the EU, there's this convincing conversation you have to have to try and convince someone they need it, right? And I don't often have a good answer. Like, well, you know, you really will need this, right? But yeah, I think it's just lags behind a little bit in that mindset.
Excellent.
Especially in maritime, what works best is lobbying. If the owners get together and one owner tells to the other that we get this solution, then he comes back to the office. What is the solution? Tell me more.
Okay.
Yeah, that is like banking, like small banks in the U.S. It's the same kind of mentality.
The greatest power.
Yeah, they move in a group.
Amazing. Amazing. So moving to the last question, Nikolas and Dr. Matthew, if you can share a little bit of light on the last question. Have you experienced, or do you feel that some of the, let's say, paperwork exercise like ISO 27001, or, for example, auditing, security auditing, do you feel that in many cases is being either made or completed for the sake of an exercise, or do you feel or think that when a company presents a have, let's say, for example, a disaster and recovery plan, or if they have, let's say, a security incident reaction, or you just name it, business continuity plan, out of your experiences both, do you feel that most of the cases that is just a paper exercise that nobody follows, or they have followed it the first time and then they have put it on the shelf? Or do you think and do you believe that it has been methodically audited and has been proven that it works. For example, a lot of auditings that I do, I ask them to give me a proof of restoration of their immutable backups, and then they keep staring at me because they haven't done that exercise. So there is a lot of, I wouldn't say bureaucracy, but there is a lot of documentation on security industry being made the last years, which describes a methodology of recovery. Do you believe and do you think that this methodology, once it's been introduced into the quality of a company, it's followed or not really?
I think that depends on the mentality of the upper level. Okay, if, as you said, we do it only for regulatory reasons or for commercial purposes in order to see the world that we have the ISOs and we have this and that, okay, then nobody will, the process is, it's just paperwork.
Yes.
It's nothing. And I think that's the biggest percent, because the ones that, the CEOs, the boards, and the ones that control and give the mentality to the company, especially the maritime, where it's more centric to people and not to certain bureaucracy and it's more paperwork.
Right.
Let me, well, the picture to begin with is gloomy, the picture. Let me start with 3 examples, starting from the vessels. Okay, the vessels, as it is in the maritime culture, are most of all, they want to be correct on paper with the audit to answer correctly the questions and all that. But the essence of this is very, very small impact. Because I have been on a vessel, we have a fantastic cybersecurity policy, all the placards around the vessel saying don't do this, don't do that. A nice label on the PC, do not insert unauthorized USBs, and yet the USB is there as we speak, together with a captain and the chief officer. And ask them, okay, what does this label say? This. What is this? You know, this, that, the maker, the charterer, the one, the other. So you see a great disparity. If, of course, the vetting officer comes on board or the auditor, everything goes away. And it's a magic picture. Everything is fantastic. So in paper, we're perfect. In essence, many, many problems. Coming back to the office, the same as you said for cybersecurity, insurance, to get the questionnaire for the office's cyber insurance, it's a very extensive questionnaire asking almost anything. I get it to the management and tell them, I say, okay, that's my chance to get my budget at last. When they say, okay, answer yes to everything.
Okay.
What's wrong? Just say yes. And explain, you know something, if you tell them that you have done a penetration test and you do not have evidence that you've done it, and you incur the damage, you won't be paid. And then they frown, and they say, okay, we actually have to do this stuff, but we have to check. That's a mentality.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And the third is the exercises, because that would put everything. That's I've told before, that's my trend right now. If you do not exercise either on paper, even on paper, it would be good to exercise on paper to see what do you do if you get a ransomware or this or that. If you don't do that, a colleague of mine, they got on, let's say, without warning, he got approval from the owner. That's one good thing of having owners in the shipping industry that has 2 or 3 companies underneath, you know, the bulkers, the tankers and stuff, and he got approval only from the owner. Nobody knew, not CEO, the MDs, as we call them in maritime, the managing directors, not the chartering guys, not the technical, nobody knew. And they started a phishing exercise. 60% click all the links.
Okay.
The next level, they had it planned, started bringing system down. People were coming to his office and telling him, you don't have a job tomorrow. Go get your stuff. They didn't know that the owner actually knew. So that needs to happen, because that's a culture. If the culture is that they go to the IT manager and tell him, you're out of business, and get me out of business. what does this good for the company? The company still has a huge problem. If I go fishing, so that's a culture, you know. The priority is paper, to be perfect on paper, and then comes reality.
As we're running out of time, Gideon, I have a very quick question for you.
Okay.
I can't help it asking you. Let's take a paper example. For example, a role into a crisis management situation. Companies need to have a media representative, where that media representative and only that media representative talks to the media.
Correct.
I'm 100% sure if there is a company in Cyprus that has an incident, the cleaner, the guy from the kitchen, everyone will actually appear suddenly on camera and have their own version of the incident and how it happened. Yes. Is that common also in the United States?
Yeah, but you know, the thing is, like,
it's not a Middle East, South Europe.
No. People talk, and when an incident happens, there's buzz, right? And everybody wants information. And this goes back to the planning you're talking about, right? As part of the incident response plan, you need to identify the players, right? And one will be who will be spokesman, right? Now, while the incident response team's doing their job, you know, part of the plan is you leave them alone. You will be briefed at this frequency, and everybody's briefed. Listen, this is going on. This is all we know. Do not talk to anybody.
Right.
And if a news van shows up in the parking lot, this is the person that's going to talk to them. Now, sometimes it's not a designated PR representative. It's someone from HR or legal counsel is going to go talk to them, right? Depends on the company structure. Right. But figuring all that out in ahead of time is critical. And it's a big mountain to climb. There's many paths to the top, but you don't have to blaze your own trail. NIST publishes a document called Special Publication 800-61. And this is basically how to do this, right? So what we do with our customers is we use that as a template. We break down their policy, their procedure for incident response. We break down the common scenarios based on the type of metrics you mentioned, right? Like, well, how much does this downtime cost you? So now you can kind of figure the calculus, how you pay a ransom. And then we put it into playbooks based on likely scenario. Then we practice those playbooks. Now, I will say that the playbooks you practice, they evolve over time, and the level of practice improves with the number of times you've done this. For instance, you may start with a simple, hey, there's been a ransomware event. Let's practice the ransomware playbook. And by the time you do this a few times, you get more sophisticated. Now we're saying, well, no, there's a ransomware attack, and we know that APT-38, who's North Korean intelligence, is attacking you because you hold cryptocurrency. Now we can emulate their tactics and everything, and then how would we stand up to that, right? Another thing this does, and this is a really unanticipated consequence we figured out quite by accident, you mentioned getting the C-suite involved. Well, you tell them you want them involved in tabletop exercise, their eyes roll back in their head and it hits the table, right? But you know, once they see what their roles are and how serious this can be and the type of things that can happen, suddenly they're engaged and they come in afterwards and say, yeah, well, when's the next one of these? You know, what's next, you know? So you do have to practice them, and you do have to keep your eye on what's really happening out there. Like 2 years ago, it was all about ransomware. Now it's bribery, it's extortion. I mean, look what happened to Air Canada yesterday, right? They didn't encrypt the data; they just steal it and bribe you to sell it back. So now your focus has to be on identity management and phishing, subversion. How they're going to steal it? How they're going to get it out? You know, it's all very fluid. But
excellent.
It's all there.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone, so much. Are we going to run into questions?
Manu,
we have a 10 minutes question session.
We've got 2 questions from the app. So I'm going to ask them here, and then if we have time, we'll take one from the audience. So question for anyone in the panel, and even Manos. Historically, owners and boards of most companies fail to allocate a proper IT budget. Industry experts generally recommend allocating between 5 and 15% of the IT budget to cybersecurity, depending on size and risk profile. Would you agree that the challenge is educating management or owners on the importance of investing in their IT infrastructure? And is that the most critical element to building a proper IT infrastructure and strategy? It's a long one.
So anyone wants to answer? Or?
Sure. Did you want to answer? Yeah. Sorry, I was looking this way. There's another aspect to that you have to factor into that calculus, and that's the management's risk tolerance, right? Their appetite for taking risk. Some folks are very, very risk tolerant. They're like, you know what? I'll just pay the ransom, right? Other folks are like, I really don't want that to happen to me. Then it's the value of the data asset. So, if you're a small company and you don't have a lot of data asset, maybe the disruption's your real concern versus a company that's holding, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of crypto assets that can be easily stolen. So there's a whole matrix there that there's no simple answer. And the management themselves are the ones that are ultimately going to make the decision. The only thing you can do is force them to express that consciously. Like, okay, so what you're saying is, if this winds up costing us, $100,000 or $1 million, you're okay with that because you think that's not going to happen. And just so we're clear, and just make it overt.
If I may add to that, usually when I go into seminars that are hosted by financial organizations, I somehow get very upset when they talk about data confidentiality and they talk about losing money and money. I'm not an accountant, I'm an IT person. So what I keep saying is that what do shipping companies have as an asset? And it's not money. The confidentiality of the seafarer, the confidentiality of the data which concern people, it's much more than a valuable asset rather than figures. Also the reputation of the company. I mean, a lot of customers we get or we lose according to our reputation. So when it comes to budgeting, how much do you value the reputation of your company? What is the price tag of the reputation of your company? So I usually discourage IT people to go with budgeting to the management, but to go with risk analysis instead of finance schemes.
Yep, thank you.
And last, because then I am a business owner, so I will take that hat.
But you're not an accountant.
No. I think that in critical operations, you have to have knowledge yourself. Mm-hmm. You have to be educated in order to understand, to see, because otherwise you just see numbers.
Yes, correct.
Sorry, very quickly, because you mentioned finance. I do believe that nowadays there is very strong awareness in the finance world that, okay, you might be not putting this budget on a yearly basis, but on the other hand, what is the risk that you're taking? So there is that awareness already in our industry as a financial people coming into this technological world and understanding all those fields and assessing what is necessary to budget.
Right.
So just to add.
Nathalie, actually, the next question in the app is for you. They asked, someone in the audience asked to ask you, what do you think of companies budgeting for ransomware payments today? What do you think of that
what
trend?
do I think?
What do you think of the trend that companies are budgeting for ransomware payments?
Can you elaborate a bit more?
That's all I have.
If you budget just to pay the ransom.
Yes, the request is creating a budget to pay the blackmail of the cyber attacker. How do you feel about that as a principle?
I understand. Well, honestly, I do believe that as a financial people, we do have to prepare and put some, we have to spend money in order to protect ourselves as business organization and our information. And it is, if for example, as a CFO of a company, if I want to put a budget and I'm not allowed to, I have to be very serious and raising all the issues that if we do not put this budget, what are the things or what are the risks that the company will bear as individual. And in some cases, it's really, really disaster. So I always maintain that two things together, that, okay, I am training my people, I'm putting the securities in place, checking them annually, and against, in case of any accident happened, what are the values. And that's why I do believe that financial people are starting to realize and move into the second page of, yes, okay, let's spend that money to security and training people.
Okay, thank you. We have one more question, time for one more question from the audience. Please keep it brief.
Thank you. My name is John Patignotis. The question is to Dr. Maheras. Matthew, as you refer to the seafarers' behavior, I ask you if the indifferent attitude, like master, is due to lack of soft skills or lack of behavior due to this change environmental, which is the ships. Do you believe that this lack of behavior or whatever is be educated? Can you predict this kind of behavior before they sign on in order to avoid these behaviors or attitude?
Well, what happens here is again, culture has a predominant role in this. Let's go back to, just seeing what happens, not giving theoretical questions. What happens on our vessels, that we have a third company managing crews and everything, is that whenever we get a new crew on board, cyber incidents rocket. Okay? The policy is the same, exactly the same. The procedure is the same. The posters on the wall, the same. We are the same. Everything is the same. Whenever the crew changes, I just look at the dashboard. Then we try for, a month. It stabilizes, and then it goes down, 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 down. Then you go to the next crew change. Up you go again. The same thing, unless you have rotating crew that come back, and then they don't go at the lowest level, but they start at a very lower level than the initial. That's a pattern. That means that they come from another company, maybe another vessel with another culture. I don't know how to call it. I mean, sticking USBs. Many people think it's not so important. It's more important to listen to the maker, be it the engine maker or this maker, to the charterer. They feel the boss is the charterer at this time. So if he has a USB, okay. Many people, if they have an incident and we go on them and tell them, actually feel the pressure from the company and from the owners. Okay, this is not a game. Who did that? This and that. Okay, then they keep it down. So I think culture is the thing. I believe the same person, when he goes to another company, he might start again, doing whatever he feels like doing.
Mm-hmm. Very well. Well, you probably have all the emails of all these experts, gentlemen. You also can have my email. So if any questions or anything that comes to your head, we'll be very happy to answer. We could drag this all day long, but we need to have a schedule to keep. Nikolas, Nathalie, Gideon, and Dr. Matthew, thank you so much for your caliber and your feedback and your sharing and shedding the light to us about your expertise in cybersecurity. And thank you very, very much again once more.
Thank you, Manos.
Thank you.